Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. This is episode 37 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. This week, my friends, we have an interview with our first red black belt on the show, Mr. Carlos Machado. He's going to talk to you a lot about different training techniques and some techniques to help you while you roll, breathing techniques, and trying to change your game slightly to make it significantly better. So it's a great interview. I know you're going to have a good time listening to it, and I know you're going to learn a lot about Jiu-Jitsu. I sure did. I've got a lot of stuff I've got to work on ever since hearing this and talking to Carlos. So great interview this week, guys. How are you doing today, Gary?
I'm doing great. I don't know if all you guys know, but Byron just got back from a little vacation. Went out to Colorado and got to go to the Olympic Training Center. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Byron?
Yeah, I did. And yeah, we went to Colorado Springs and I got a tour of the Olympic Training Center. We started off, the little tour takes you through the different buildings that are on the camp there, and they showed us like this room for the shooters, Olympic shooters. And it was like a nice facility, and they had all these different targets set up and not an athlete in the room. Like, the whole building was empty, except for the people on the tour. And they showed how small the targets were, and that's impressive. But there were nobody in there training. We went on to the next thing, and it was like Olympic weightlifts, and a really nice facility. And actually, they showed us like the old facility and the new facility. And there was, yet again, not one Olympic lifter in there training.
Whoa.
So I'm like, man, we're striking out. And up next is the wrestling facility. And I told my wife, I said, hey, these guys are going to be in here, or I'm going to lose a bet with you. Walk in, and you could. It's like 82 to 3 degrees. It's warm in there. It's real muggy, and you could hear them in there training. And so we walk up, and there's a handful of guys, and they're just working their asses off. It was real neat.
That'd be fun to watch that.
Yeah, we stuck around for probably longer than I should have for being on the tour, and then. Like they have a cage built around their weights, the wrestling weights that they have, and I asked him about that, and he said that the trainers actually put the cage around there because the guys would go in and lift. They're not on the mat all the time, but on their off time they would go lift, and they would overtrain. Is what the problem. These guys are so determined and training so hard that they were just going to train too much, too often, and so they have a lock, and they lock the wrestlers out of the weight room.
You got a great work ethic, and you're in great shape when they have to do that and keep you out of the gym.
Yep, that just shows the caliber of athlete that they have in there. Yeah.
Speaking of caliber of athlete, I had heard about your wife beating you up Pikes Peak on the climb.
That is true. She did very well on that. We did hike. I've never hiked a 1,400-foot mountain before, and so we decided we were going to do that. And I usually perform better than she does, I would say. Not trying to put her down, but we're both athletic people. But she was worried that she was going to slow me down, and we got up there a little past the tree line and had a couple miles to go, and I started getting sick. I had a headache and I was dizzy, and I wasn't falling down, but I was stumbling a lot more than I should. And she was doing fine, so she definitely.
She's not going to let you live that one down.
No, she's not hard on me about it, but it was interesting She did so well in there, and I'm happy that somebody had to help get me up that mountain. So
yeah, I was going to say if it wasn't for her being in such great shape, you guys probably wouldn't have been able to get up there. So.
Well, the thing about that is, there's either
I carried you up like a Sherpa.
I turn around and walk another 11 miles back to where we started, or try to finish another 2. So that's pretty good incentive.
Yeah,
so go ahead and finish. I said if there's an escalator for the last half mile, I bet you a lot of people would not actually finish hiking, and they would just taking that on up. So
just take the escalator.
Yeah. But. So it was a fun trip, and I got to see the Olympic Center, and that was cool. So
Yeah,
if you're in Colorado Springs, definitely check that out. They'll show you the rest of the room.
Yeah, definitely. If you get up to Colorado Springs, go on the tour to the Olympic Training Center. Get to watch the best in the world train and have some fun.
Yep. This week, let's mention our Fuji Sports sponsor. You go to fujisports.com, get all your grappling needs, your gis, your rash guards, gi and no gi. But we're giving away one of 2 rash guards. This is the final week to enter the contest. Gary, what rash guard have you been wearing?
I've been wearing the Robo rash guard, and like I told you before, I really love the rash guard, and I get a lot of compliments on it. So can't beat that one. And
mine is called the Moko. I've been wearing. It's like the theme is like a tiger theme, so I've been loving it. I wore it for no gi, and I've also worn underneath my gi. Fits great, breathes really nicely. Definitely get in the contest because this is the last week, and we're gonna be giving one away, your choice. So definitely, like or share the podcast there on Monday, and you get 2 votes if you change your status to a picture of one of the rash guards. Absolutely, we'll go through there and note anybody who did that. We entered them in twice to the drawing, and pretty soon my hiking wife will pick one of the names out of it for a drawing, and she'll decide that because I know a lot of you people who listen are our friends, so she'll be one to avoid that sort of situation. So it'll be nice.
Yeah, and definitely I've noticed a lot of people liking and sharing the Facebook page, the Twitter page, and getting themselves entered for the contest. So somebody's going to be a happy new owner of a Fuji rash guard.
Yep, and if you don't win, they're now for sale. So you could also swing by and pick one up at fujisports.com.
Yeah. And like we've always said before, besides rash guards, they have a lot of great stuff there. Gis, grappling shorts, gear bags. So definitely check out fujisports.com.
All right, Gary, let's roll on to the quote of the week here. We've got next week we have a guy named Nick Albin. He goes by Chewy. So a lot of people know him by Chewy. He's got ChewJujitsu.net.
Yeah, most people have seen articles been shared around from Jiu-Jitsu. And so that's Nick right there. So definitely check that website out. He's got some great articles.
But he gave us our quote of the week, and he also gave us our interview for next week. So check out this quote and enjoy it, and then look forward to next week when we get an entire interview with him. So here goes the quote.
A quote. So I guess this one probably relates more to competition for me, personally. The quote comes from the most famous British admiral, Horatio Nelson. The quote is, quote, "The measure may be thought bold, but I'm of the opinion the boldest are the safest," end quote. And what I like about the quote is that, for me personally, I feel pretty unsatisfied with a match if I leave the mat, win or lose, and for some reason I was held back. And again, the word bold, just to kind of go back to that, just means willingness to take risks. And so, for instance, maybe I won a match, but I didn't take advantage of the opportunities that I had to submit someone. Or maybe I lost the match and I was just kind of held back. Maybe I was nervous about something and I didn't go for it. And so that quote really speaks to me. And, mainly just when you go into a competition, you have to be willing to take risks and go after it. And I think that, for me personally, again, whether I win or I lose, as long as I go out there in the match and I, take the risks, I go after it, I give it everything I have, and I go after it, then I'm satisfied with the match, whether I win or lose, because you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But I feel like I'm satisfied with those matches. And I've found that the more willing I am to take a risk and to go after a technique and to, go after it 100%, it sort of correlates with my success on the mat and, in competitions and stuff like that. And I guess you could also break it down for, inside the gym as well, because, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and take some risks when you're training. I think that's one of the most important things to improving is being able to try new stuff and not worry about whether you're going to lose the match or lose the role with your partner. You got to try new stuff. You got to expand your game, and that requires you to take the risk and to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. So that's a quote that sticks with me personally. I don't necessarily share it with everyone all the time, but for me personally, it resonates with me a lot. So.
There was Nick Albin, otherwise known as Chewy, presenting a quote from one of his favorite British admirals. Be bold, guys.
Yeah, and that's definitely, definitely true. Take some chances there, and I really like what he was saying about that.
Yeah, there's, some matches you're going to win, some you're going to lose. But if you sometimes even if you win a match, you know that you held back a little bit and you maybe could have done a little bit better if you were more bold. And he also talked about training, open yourself up for some new training opportunities. Try moves you're not really all that good at sometimes, and try to expand your game. There's definitely times in your training cycles where you need to be focusing on a core select set of moves that you're working on to set up your game, and then there's times in your training where you need to be learning about other things. And it's bold to try those things because you're not going to do as well. But then again, it's just training, guys. I mean, get better. Don't worry about winning and losing on the mat at your gym. That's no big deal.
Yeah, and I really liked, how he defined bold, showing an ability to take risks, confident, courageous. And, I like that, be bold. I think that might be a little catchphrase for me right now. Take some risks, be confident, be courageous. And also, too, what I like, if you go to Chewy's blog right there, jiu-jitsu.net, he on June 17th, his post from that day, he talks all about the quote there too. I know how he just talked about it, but he's got the blog right about it there, and that's also cool to read. But definitely check out his blog. A lot of great stuff there. Yeah,
and I'll put a link to that article that he wrote up there on his blog. That'll be easy for you guys to find. If not, just go to jiu-jitsu.net.
Yeah, and don't forget to tune in next week because, like Byron said earlier, we have the full interview with him. So we appreciate it, Nick.
Yep, thank you, buddy, and we're looking forward to having you on the show next week. That music rolling in is a good cue for us to get to the article of the week.
The article of the week are good times. What do we got this week, Byron?
AlchemyMartialArts.net. This is in the category BJJ for beginners. The article is called A Simple Plan for Weight Loss.
And I think everybody likes a simple in there. Nobody wants a plan that's really tough, a lot of work you have to put into it. But here we are with just a simple plan for weight loss.
Yeah, and it goes back to what your goals are. Like, if your goal isn't to lose weight, don't worry. I mean, you need to become healthy and maintain that. But if your plan is to lose weight, he's got a real simple plan for you. And it's funny because the article, he repeats it 4 times in bold every time. No bread, no pizza, no pasta, cookies or cake. So
the bad part is I'm in trouble on every one of those.
Yeah.
Cookies and cake, not so much, but the bread, pizza, and pasta.
Cookies and cake, I love my cookies.
I'll take a little bit of carrot cake.
Carrot cake? Oh,
I love carrot cake. Well, isn't it carrot cake healthy?
I would think so, because it tastes so terrible, and it tastes like, I think you're good with carrot cake. Eat all you want,
carrot. It's got carrots in it, so there.
But he's part of the beauty of what he breaks down is like, make it simple. Take these things out of your diet, and you will lose weight. Working out also helps a lot too.
Yeah, and he talks about the biggest issue is they do not provide any real nutrition beyond calories, and calories are going to make you gain weight, and there's really not a lot to them that are going to help you out nutrition-wise. Yeah,
they're not packed full of vitamins and things your body is looking for anyway. All they are is some just sugar-style calories that they break down and either turn into fat storage for you in case you happen to be in a situation where you can't find food, you're ready to go, or just that quick carbohydrate load that your body may not need. If you're running long distances, some of these foods may not be bad for you, but just as average jiu-jitsu guys, if you want to lose a little bit of weight, no bread, pizza, pasta, cookies, or cake, my friends.
No bread, pizza, pasta, cookies, or cake. But I like it when he says the biggest danger that they may harbor sugar, especially when labeled as low fat. Who cares if it's low fat, if it's loaded with sugar? A 5-pound bag of sugar is 0 fat, but that doesn't make it healthy. And you look at it that way, definitely says low fat, but it's loaded with sugar.
Yeah, that's a funny thing for people sometimes to realize, that just because it has no fat doesn't mean it's actually healthy. And same thing, at work sometimes we'll be talking about food, and some guy will want organic food, and they think just because it says organic is good for them. And I'll remind them that arsenic is organic. I mean, it's a naturally found substance, but it's not good for you all the time. I mean, or any time. But so no fat, or it might say no sugar and have tons of fat. I mean, so, be careful what you eat, guys, and try to cut those things out. I'm not perfect, and Gary, you just said you're not perfect with your diet either, so.
Not at all.
My big thing for me personally is I try not to drink sugar, because I do have a sweet tooth, and if I get to drinking sugar, I could consume a lot of calories just without even eating and getting full. So I say no sugar pop for me, or juice. But check out the article, guys, especially if weight loss is one of your goals. We all train hard, and sometimes when you're training hard, you think you're going to lose weight, and diet is just as important as your physical training for the weight loss.
Yeah, definitely. Diet's very important. A lot of us get into the thing that we're burning a lot of calories, and we can eat anything we want, but it doesn't necessarily always work like that. Especially, I can tell you, as I've got older, I've put on weight because I don't burn the calories like I used to. My metabolism's a little different, and need to start watching what I eat.
So good advice on the website there, guys, alchemymartialarts.net. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. You can find it easy. All right, guys, we have an awesome interview with Carlos Machado today. He was nice enough to talk with me over the phone, and he talked a lot about breathing techniques and why you roll, controlling your breathing. And it's not like just control your breathing, because a lot of guys don't control their breathing at all, and they do get tired quicker because of that. But he purposely controls his breathing, and he has some techniques he shares to do that. And I can imagine, like, the difference between not controlling the breathing and to just try to slow it down is huge. And then the difference between slowing it down and to doing his techniques could let you roll them out twice as long. I mean, so often you get tired because of you're working yourself up, and that starts with breathing.
Seems like I'm going through a little valley right now where I'm getting tired a lot quicker, which is, I think I'm in good shape and everything. And it made me start realizing maybe I am not breathing properly. So I actually, from just listening to the interview, I'm going to start paying attention to it and trying to work on it a little bit more. Yeah,
absolutely. And I've already tried it, and it's it takes some effort to remember to do it. But when I do, I think it does slow me. It doesn't like physically slow me down. It calms me down. Not that I'm all worked up on the mat, but it makes you realize what you're doing.
Yeah, the calmness makes a big difference too. When you're not calm, you're going to be exerting more energy, breathing harder. If you take some deep breaths, get calm, you're going to exert less energy. You're going to be aware of the situation and try to figure your way out of a bad position.
Yep, and he also mentions in the interview he'll be in Vegas for the 4th of July weekend for the 2014 Martial Arts Super Show. He's going to teach a little seminar, and he also has a booth. Just come up to him and ask him questions about jiu-jitsu. What a perfect opportunity if you're in the Vegas area to talk to him. Or he said his brother John was definitely going to be there, and maybe some other brothers were going to be in that booth.
Yeah, I mean, how can you go wrong with that? A couple of legends. The Machado family are legends of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so you can't go wrong getting if you're down in Vegas there to stop by and talk to him. Or, I mean, we were honored enough just to be able to talk to Carlos Machado.
Yep, and then after just another quick thing that he's doing. After that, on July 7th, starting July 7th, he's doing a Jiu-Jitsu summer camp. It's in Dallas, Texas. If you're in the Dallas area, it's 2 weeks, 4 days each week of a Jiu-Jitsu summer camp. So definitely swing by and check that out if you're in the Dallas area and are able to train for those days that he has available. I'll have information for that on my show notes. And before we get the interview rolling, I want to thank Jake Burrows for hooking us up with the interview with Carlos Machado. His website is The Ground Never Misses. So big thanks to our friend Jake.
Yep, thank you, Jake, and definitely check out that website.
Guys, it's my honor to have Carlos Machado on the show with me today. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Byron. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very excited to talk to your audience today.
Thank you, and we're excited to have you on here. For the people who are new to the sport and not in your area, could you tell everybody kind of who you are?
Sure. I've been in the United States for over 2 decades. Right before the first Gracie Academy was opened, and in 1992 we opened our first Machado Academy in Tarzana, California. And I came to Texas in 95, and I've been running 6 different academies down here in the Dallas Metroplex. I'm the oldest of the Machado brothers, which are 5, and many of you are familiar with many of them, Roger, Hagen, Jean-Jacques, and John. And we've been among the pioneers of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in the United States, and have very exciting things going on in our camp at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's got to be an amazing feeling to have your brothers, not only to just work with your brothers, because that's neat. I mean, a lot of families are fortunate to have family businesses, but to do such a great thing, you know, with jiu-jitsu and help develop the sport with your family.
Sure. Yeah, it's, you know, what happens is like when we grow up, normally, you know, each person takes one path and goes to a certain direction. My brothers and I, all of us, without exception, have great relationship and great respect for one another. And I have to say, too, for much of our life in the United States after we came here, we've been each other's coaches in several occasions, you know. So it's a special relationship. You have a training partner, you have a coach, you have a friend, and you also have somebody you can do business with. So there's a lot of positives.
Yeah,
you know?
And somebody you could trust, absolutely, you know.
Sure.
If somebody hasn't been on the mat with you or seen you on the mat, could you describe your style of jiu-jitsu, how you like to roll? And
Of course. You see, I always loved the butterfly guard. That's my bread and butter when people are testing my guard. I love when people put me in bad positions, like, for instance, if you're talking about white and blue belts at an earlier time, one of the issues that take place, I really enjoy putting myself in bad situations and try to work first surviving those situations and then build my game from there. A lot of people sometimes they get into their comfort zone where they only want to be in positions that they feel comfortable, and I'd rather start for the situations that I'm not that comfortable, because anything that comes along after that is a plus. Now, I'm a patient guy when I train. I usually don't limit my role. I love rolling with guys. Usually when I pick a training partner, I try to pick somebody of a level that's going to challenge me, although I do train with people who are beginners or advanced as well. And I don't go for less than at least a good 30-minute roll. You know, I love rolling for a long period of time, and I try to do, if I can, at least 2 or 3 rounds between 20 and 30 minutes each. So I can complete at least a full hour of flow, you know, and it's not how fast you go, it's how far you go in my game. You know, I turned 50 last year. That doesn't mean that I'm out of shape. That doesn't mean that I'm slowing down my jiu-jitsu. That means that my jiu-jitsu now actually is better than it was before that, because I have a much better understanding, not just on the technical side, trying to make the same thing but easier, but also the fact that I'm emphasizing on how to train, not just on doing techniques. And it's a very enjoyable thing. And there's one aspect, though, and you can relate, my cousin Hickson, for instance, has always mentioned the breathing. And this is not to be taken lightly. Using the breathing when you train transforms your jiu-jitsu to a degree you cannot even conceive. So when I train, I can explain it on if you want, a little bit of feedback on the breathing. But it keeps you very relaxed on your state of mind, and it prolongs your lasting, like your fatigue doesn't kick in anywhere near or fast compared to if you're not breathing properly. You know, and you're going to notice that sometimes when you try to escape from something, when you try to go for a submission, when you try to do a guard pass against a tough guy, a lot of times you hold your breath. And so the way I train, it's just like, and the other thing that's kind of amazing is even if you're not in shape, you can still last way longer, you know, as if you're in shape. It's crazy, you know. But anyhow, just to kind of emphasize, my goal is not necessarily to get to a destination. My goal is just to go through the journey. That when I train, that's what it is. You know, I do techniques like everybody else. I do a lot of simple stuff, but things that they work pretty well. Yeah. You know, when I train my hook flips, my butterflies against guys who are 300 pounds. So when I practice with them, it's like when you're lifting weights you get used to lift more load, and move a body which is much heavier than the average person. When you go against somebody lighter, needless to say that, it's another story. You know what I'm saying? If you can move a 300-pounder around, when you get a 180-pounder, it's I tell you,
like
something else.
You said something that was very encouraging to me. You said that at 50 years old, you're better than you had been in the past. So if you today at 50 were to be on the mat with the you at 40?
Yeah, I would. There's also, of course, like the 4-year-old maybe physically could have had a different pace, but I think because of the knowledge and experience that I have now, I think I could have beaten the 4-year-old.
Yeah, that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
And then you, speaking of the breathing, how it makes people tired, reminds me of sometimes in competition, people they get real excited and they don't control their breathing, and they could maybe roll all day at the academy, and then in the competition in 5 minutes they are exhausted. Is that a lot of that from the breathing incorrectly?
Yes. What happened is the thing of the breathing is, I give an example. I got one student that used to do sprints on uphill.
Yeah.
Go up the road, steepy roads. And before, he would just do a few sprints and just get worn out and just kind of, get out of breath, not finish the whole workout. And then now, he was trying to do with the breathing that I taught my guys on the Jiu-Jitsu class. He used that for his workouts. And basically, he was able to not only do all the sprints without flinching, he was not nearly as tired, and he was able to recover. He ended up actually feeling like he's never felt. He could have done another double workout after he got done, and his time was better. Everything was better. He was not nauseated at the end of the sprints. And I had another guy who was doing a treadmill workout with those heart rate monitors, and basically, I think his heart rate was like 180 beats a minute. He was going pretty fast for whatever the workout, and he started to do the breathing without changing the speed or the resistance, and he went down to 140. So he was able to, using the breathing, to reduce 30 points on his heartbeat. I mean, it's just like, so if they did that, just doing that, can you imagine just on the regular training sessions that you do in Jiu-Jitsu? Jiu-Jitsu, you can take your time sometimes. You can relax, control, you get to a good position, you manage the position. You can strategize and wait for your opponent to try something and then you counter. There's so many variables. And now you do that using a proper way to breathe. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. So I can tell you later if you want the technique that I use, which is very simple, and I think anybody listening to this won't have a problem. And I'll be eager to actually, if anybody, after I explain what I do, they try out, and if they have a positive experience, I would love to hear from them. Just, because I have a theory behind this, and I'm researching this, make sure that it does results, that it produces the same results on others that it does to me.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. Let's get into the breathing technique and how you do that. All right.
I'll tell you. Okay, so they call this the choo-choo-choo. Like a train, like they. And basically, you only worry about exhaling. You don't worry about sucking the air, because the minute you empty your lungs, air comes back in. It's just a pressure thing. Your lungs are empty. A lot of times, what happens with us, we want to suck air while your lungs still are full of air. And then, so we don't take enough air, actually, The second thing is, there's no way for you to verify if you're holding your breath or not in the midst of the battle. Like, sometimes you naturally, by instinct, you kind of like, you stop breathing, you stiff your muscles, you tense up, and you don't even notice. So I make a little noise. When I breathe, I do 3 or 4 small exhaling, exercise. But as I push the air out, the last exhaling is the longest. So it would sound something like this. I do the 1, 2, 3 is like. The last one is the longest. But the one that works the best and the one that I use more often is the 1, 2, 1, 2, which is like this. And depending how fast the guy's going or how fast you want to go when you're flowing and training hard, you can go. You go 3 in a row and then 4. But most of the time I go 1, 2, 1, 2. And you can hear the noise as I'm blowing the air out. It's important that you hear. I know some people might be embarrassed doing it, but if you watch a class in my academy, it feels like a symphony. Everybody's breathing kind of like that. I have a lawyer that this guy is not the youngest guy. He comes and trains for 2 freaking hours, no stop. And he could go for another hour if he wanted to. But he's the one that uses the breathing the best of all my students. And he's just like a machine. And it's not because he's in better shape. It's not because he's stronger than anybody, but he just keeps the breathing to a point where he never gets tired. But like I said, don't be self-conscious because of that. Because, if you stop making that noise, the odds are probably you're going to be holding your breath, or you're not going to be aware when you're holding your breath. So it's almost like a reminder, that, and the flow, it keeps on going. It creates some sort of an ecstatic kind of state of mind, because your endorphins are much higher. When you do a workout, like, it gets so bad in a good way that if I don't roll one day, if I don't do my roll, I feel terrible. I feel terrible because, it's not just because of the roll. If you go there and roll and you're stiff and you're muscly and it's a different experience than just doing with the breathing, which you're a lot more aware of how much energy you spend, and you flow way better. You know what I'm saying? You think about what you're doing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be trying that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and promise me you're going to touch bases with me, because it is cool, man. I tell you. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. Does it take a little bit of time to get that to where it's automatic, to where that's just how you breathe while you roll?
I went to a seminar one time. I taught a seminar on a Saturday, and this white belt had a competition the next day. Gentleman from out of town. The next day he competed, and then he ended up losing the match. White belts, I think at the time it was a 5-minute match. And the other guy was moving around. He was moving around, and he finished the match, the gentleman that I taught the breathing, the white belt, the same way that he started. He was moving around and stuff. The other guy that beat him by points, I guess, he was like, the referee had to actually help carry him. He was so worn out and tired. While the guy that I was working with the day before and learned a little bit about the breathing, despite the fact that he lost, he was still okay. It's like, man, I'm not tired. The other guy was dead. It's just that he lacked the experience and the knowledge what to do to beat the guy, on the tournament game. But in regards to the physical shape, he was fine. He could have, another match right away with the same guy, and probably that guy wouldn't be able to last with him if they had to go a second time.
Yeah. That's very interesting that he's able to get that to work, and his a longer match would have been better for him for sure, just because he was able to keep his breath and relax.
Sure.
So, what are you and your brothers up to now?
All right. I just got Roger Hegan coming to town. My brother John, some of you might not be aware, he has moved to Dallas, Texas, where I've been for the last 18 years. He came here last August, got a new school up and running in the city of Allen, Texas, and it's been a few months, maybe 3 months open. And it's an awesome place, and he's been helping me, to train a lot of different black belts and people that have become involved in joining the RCJ Machado organization. So we held our affiliate program for a few years because we wanted to kind of fine-tune and make sure that we had good curriculums and good training systems for everybody. And now we finally got to it, and we have tremendous amount of very, very structured and interesting, lessons for people, when they join. And Higan and Roger came along on board this last week, and so just the fact that I have a guy like Higan just give me some feedback, he's like an encyclopedia of jiu-jitsu, and Roger also has a tremendous amount of knowledge. So it's almost like I feel like before it was just me, now I'm multiplying myself, like I have 3 clones with different abilities that I can count on. And, and when we have the Brothers Camp, which I mentioned to you earlier, I think we've had 6 editions so far. This year is going to be the 7th edition on the 24th, and 25th, and 26th of October, whatever that weekend is. It's usually a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I have all my brothers coming and teaching, and I normally teach first so I can be a student and watch the remaining of the weekend, each of my brothers taking their time and doing the classes so I can learn from them. I always learn something new every time I'm participating in one of my brother's classes. And it's a very good experience at my stage in life to be a student, at one point in time. We're always hungry for knowledge, and it doesn't matter how much you know, you always have more to learn.
Yeah, that's. I think a lot of newer students get confused by that. They think, I'm going to learn this for a certain amount of years, and then I'll have it figured out, and I'll understand jiu-jitsu. And there's just always more to learn. You need to keep your mind open and keep bringing new things in and keep getting better.
Yeah, well, one of the things, it's funny you mentioned that. A lot of times what I do, I don't try to add more techniques and more steps. I try to look at the techniques that I know, revisit them, and see, how can I make this easier? That's kind of like my approach.
Yeah.
So if you do like a noob escape, the way we've been doing a noob escape nowadays has changed compared to the way I used to do when I first learned it. Before I used to do the upa and then the roll. Now I roll first and then I do the upa. I roll on my side. I get the guy off balance and then I lift him up instead of, trying to lift him up and then roll. And he has done just that little thing there has changed dramatically how much easier it is to roll somebody out of the top mount to on top of you just by changing the order right there.
Wow, and I'm gonna have to try that tomorrow as well.
There you go. Or if I can tell you something, then since you're gonna do it, don't worry about trapping the guy's arm first. You trap the leg first, and then you try to catch the arm in case the guy doesn't try to attack you. But anyhow, and always try to circle towards the side you're gonna roll. The upa is not a stationary position that you just trap the guy. Always your hip in a straight line. You always walk in a circle, like you're chasing the leg and you're chasing the side you're going to roll the guy to.
Yeah, very good. I'm trying to think about with your breathing techniques. Do you find yourself like executing in like a oompa at a certain time in your breathing, or is it just they're 2 separate things?
The breathing develops your sensitivity. You feel like when you're spending energy, you automatically recognize that because you feel tempted to hold your breath. When you're spending more strength, more muscle than technique. And then the other thing is, it's not the timing itself. The breathing works of keeping relaxed, and I think it gives you more of a sense when to do something or when to go for something. In jiu-jitsu, if it feels too hard, sometimes instead of insisting, just keep the position, slow down, wait a bit, and just see if there's a better angle. Sometimes like an inch. An inch change makes a whole difference, one extra inch. It's not much. It's just like little movements change the whole thing. But in regards to the breathing, it gives you that instinct, that natural perception. If you're spending energy, automatically starts to relax once you realize that.
Okay, I guess that goes back to what you were saying earlier about just controlling your breathing to help your energy and lower your heart rate and perform better overall. I've heard you guys are doing something in Vegas. coming up?
Yeah, I'll be in Vegas on the 4th of July week, between the 29th of June, which is a Sunday, I believe, and the 3rd, which is let's see here, 3rd is like a Wednesday maybe. Anyhow, they have the Maya Super Show, the Martial Arts Industry Association. It's they call it the Super Show, where they gather notable, instructors and different type of businesses like software. It's like a trade show for the martial arts. Century Martial Arts, which is the largest distributor of martial arts supplies, they're the ones that actually, are behind it. But they have quite a few great instructors out there. I know that I'm going to teach a seminar with Ricardo Liborio for American Top Team. We're going to share this mat space for 3 hours, teaching different concepts, me and him. Then I have my own seminar, I think a couple of days later. I think it's a Tuesday, July 1st, whenever that is. I'm going to be doing the arm triangle seminar, where I'm going to teach a lot of different angles, how to get that submission that nowadays has become so popular. But for a lot of people who hasn't been in one of those, it's pretty interesting thing, because you see not just a lot of different instructors teaching different topics. You have also a lot of different cool stuff, that if you have a gym you can use, from computer, desk software to whatever. I'll have a booth myself, and I'm going to do Q&A all day long. Like, people will go to my booth, and they're going to ask me questions, which I did last year. Last year, Byron, I would say I taught 800 people. I had 800 people at different times coming to my booth with questions. And there was a Naga tournament, a Grappler's Quest tournament happening at the same time. And one of the organizers mentioned that if any of the participants want to just check my booth and maybe learn a move or ask a question, despite the fact they were competing, they could. So I had a few guys out there that came along, and they were actually competing. And I'm not saying this to brag, but there was one guy there that came back. He was a silver medal at that time, and he did work on the butterfly hook flip with me for like 5-10 minutes while he was in my booth. And then basically when he went back, he won like 3 matches using that very technique that he perfected at that very day, right before the tournament. So what I was trying to tell you, I like to work simple stuff but make it easier.
Yeah.
If I had to teach the guy, I have nothing against teaching a De La Riva guard or berimbolo. There's mechanics for that, and I use the wall. When I teach students how to do a fancy move like the berimbolo, for instance, they do on the wall first. They learn how to spin their bodies the way they're supposed to. Then they do with a training partner, So, but anyhow, besides the point, if anybody who hears the show, you're in Vegas at that time, please stop at the RCJ Machado booth. My brothers, I think John is confirmed to be there as well, and Higgin and Roger are making plans to be there too. So you can ask one question and have each brother answering their own way. It might be cool that way too. I haven't tried that yet, but we'll see.
That sounds like a very exciting event, and definitely if you're anywhere near Vegas or you're going to head out there, swing by the booth and check that out. It's amazing how, like you're talking about that guy with the butterfly guard, like somebody is just missing one small part of what they're doing, and then if you're able to show them, try doing it a little bit better like this way, and then it works considerably better. Just in a matter of minutes, you were able to change what he was doing a little bit and make it work for him in a competition right away. So that's the value of going to the booth and ask your question.
Yeah. Well, what happens in that regard is another thing. Is not what you teach; it's how you teach. I don't like to break things. When I break things down, when I'm demonstrating to the students, if a position is simple, you shouldn't take more than 3 steps. If it's a fancy position, it could be maybe 5 steps or 6 steps. I never teach 6 steps. I teach the first 3. When they get the first 3, then I add another 3. You know what I'm saying? Anything that goes beyond 3 steps, it's hard for the student to incorporate right away into their game. So I try to keep it short and sweet in that regard.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that, if it takes more steps, that's no problem. But I break it in steps no longer than 3 apiece. And now this that happened in Vegas, it did happen as well in other occasions when I taught seminars at different places, like the guy with the breathing, for instance, that he used the breathing. I also had situations where I taught different games from like half guard pass against a deep half guard, and then some of the guys used that on the next day, and they were able to win some matches. I taught like some chokes from the guard when I was in Mexico, and then there was a tournament the next day. They call it Machado tournament. I have a black belt of mine that runs one of those once or twice a year in the city of Monterrey, Mexico. And this kid pulled it off, and he became champion using that move. Now, I'm not saying this, like I said, to say that I'm better or worse as an instructor than anybody else. I'm just saying there's a way that you can simplify things that you won't take that long for somebody to not just learn the technique, but be able to execute it right away.
Yeah, that's it's how you're showing it and communicating the technique to the student in a way that they're able to absorb it and bring it into what they're doing. Let's keep going on that, on the teaching and the coaching a little bit. You've promoted countless amount of blue belts, I'm sure, in this sport or martial art. So if somebody is a new blue belt out there, I think it's sometimes it's hard. They're still a kind of a beginner, and some of the better white belts are able to still get them, and then the really good blue belts are way better than they are, and sometimes they get discouraged, and they have a hard road as a blue belt. What advice would you give a student who just got their blue belt and is looking to keep doing better?
All right. There are two topics right there. First, if you have a new blue belt, and you have not only higher level blue belts that he has to practice with, but also, other white belts that might be tough.
Yeah.
White belts that, so he might feel like the fact that he's a blue belt, he shouldn't tap or have a hard time against another blue belts. I think there's a mindset concept right there that has to be instilled. If you get stuck on who you're training with by the belts, a lot of times you're going to be set for frustration. If a brown belt gets tapped by a purple, or if a black belt gets tapped out by a brown, or if a blue belt roughs off a brown belt or a white belt or blue belt and stuff, it's not where the bugs are. You have to focus on what you're doing all the time, not just who you're going against. And I have two simple things that I enforce in my academy often. One is, when you train with somebody, what is your goal? And in jiu-jitsu, the first goal is to survive. You want to survive,
Yeah.
And so if you're a blue belt and the guy, let's say, he passed your guard, got on your side, and tapped you with a knee on the belly choke, okay? Let's say this was the case. All right, now when you train again, if the guy did pass your guard, you want to make sure that it takes him at least an extra minute to pass. So you're going to have to try to slow that guy down to pass. And when he gets to your side, you're going to try to be in a position that even if you get tapped, you don't allow him to get the knee on the belly. You're going to counter the knee on the belly. So you're going to take at least one thing or another from your partner that is not going to be able to, do exactly the same route. I did a seminar one time called the X-Ray Seminar. And out of the 3 or 4 different things that happen in a sequence, okay, I will tell the students, you have to read what the guy's doing. He's going to do to you once. And you have to tell me, if there's one thing that if you can counter, would change it altogether. So what would that be? So the student had to concentrate, instead of worry about, let's say, the guard or the side mount or the knee on the belly, whatever it is that he chose, he had to be the most important aspect of the sequence. So you take that out of this equation, Now, before I showed him, though, how to counter, he had to repeat the same move as if he was the one doing it. And that's what the X-ray is. You read the other guy's move first, and then after you understand how it happens from the top, now I'm going to show you how to counter it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It gives you a three-dimensional view. You're not just thinking from the bottom perspective. You see all the steps. So imagine this. This was really cool because by the end of the seminar, what happened, if anybody did something to somebody, the guy at the bottom, let's say the guy at the bottom who got caught with a choke, he was able to replicate right away what the other guy did. He was able to just repeat the same move without me ever showing him, just because he learned how to feel what the focus was, where to look, what the guy was doing. He was able to mirror. It's like a mirror technique, if you can say. And then, like for instance, against a lot of people, if you have two hands against one arm at all times, you take away one of the guy's arms. For him to choke you, he needs two arms, two hands. So for the entire time, all you do, you have two hands holding one of the guy's arms, of course, tight, so he doesn't get your arm bars or anything like that. That alone messes the guy up big time.
Yeah.
So if the guy doesn't know how to skate, doesn't know anything, but knows how to grab two hands against one sleeve, and hold it tight, he messes up any knee in the belly choke.
That's very good, and I like what you're saying about that. Understanding the move from both positions. Okay. That way you understand how it works.
And you learn how to steal the move, because what if you don't know how to do a cool move and then the guy doesn't move to you, and you learn how to figure that out fast? So worst case scenario, you go against a good guy, the guy pulls a north-south guillotine on you that you never saw, all of a sudden you're pulling that off right off the bat. So you cannot imagine what that causes to you. Your game is like, it doesn't improve just by a bit here, a bit there. Every time you roll, especially the better is the guy that you roll, the more you're going to learn and be able to absorb. Because you're going to be adding that person's moves on top of course, developing a defense against it.
Yeah. Wow, that's, twice. Everything works together and your learning grows a lot faster.
Yeah.
What advice would you give a student who's going to compete for the first time?
Well, besides the breathing, knowing how to breathe, the strategy is this. You don't fight against an opponent. You fight against the clock. You see what I'm saying? So
okay.
Let's say you have 5 minutes in a match and you're a white belt. Okay? The first minute, don't try anything. Just be on the defense and wait for the guy to make a move, be in a low stance, be more of a counterattack kind of guy. Don't just go crazy. Just take your time. Because a lot of times you don't have to do anything. The guy makes a wrong move, he gives you the opportunity to do something. After the first minutes, you're going to have two strategies. If you're better than the guy in takedowns and you have at least one good takedown, I like single legs because single legs don't expose the neck as much as double legs. And you can kind of like learn that as easy as you do, the wrestling moves. So learn that. And for some reason, you cannot take the guy down. He's a good judo wrestler, and you lack experience. You're going to have to learn how to pull the guard, setting the guy up for a reversal or a sweep. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have both. But something good has to happen once the match goes down to the ground. Whether you start on top doing takedown or you pull guard and set him up for a sweep, before long. And once you're there and you secure the position, anytime you have the advantage by points, you just, I would say mentally count to 10. Don't do anything until the count of 10 is up. You hold the guy down and wait for him, just control, and wait for him to spend his energy. And you only make a move if you need after the 10. Of course, you cannot stall and have the referee warning you or giving you, warnings or take points away from you. But I'm saying you have a tempo. You have a tempo. I do a lot of times, you can count to 10 or you can count to 6 or you can count to 3. If you want to go faster, let's say if the match is a 5-minute match and then by the 3rd minute there's no points, you're going to count to 3. Every time you hit 3, you got to make a move. So you create a tempo that you don't have to think about it. You're like 1, 2, 3, you go for a move. Then you stop, hold the guy, 1, 2, 3, you go for another move. Because being a white belt, you don't have the same flow as a blue or a purple belt.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you just go, and a lot of times what happens with white belts, they move fast and they try to move faster without the knowledge, they leave behind a lot of holes. They make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes it costs them. When you do this 1, 2, 3 tempo, you get a good move or a good sequence or secure a technique. You 1, 2, 3, just control the guy. 1, 2, 3, then you move again. Then 1, 2, 3, then you move again. Then 1, 2, 3. Man, that alone right there and the other guy has no clue that you're doing that. You take a little bit of time for the guy to figure out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that right there, it's a very interesting strategy.
Yeah, that is.
Itself.
You think about all the matches of the white belts and some of the blue belts. They go way too fast, and they try, 100% all the time until they are done or exhausted. And so both your advice about breathing and your advice about setting a tempo and making yourself work at that. And also, if every 3 seconds or 6 seconds I'm going to start to do a move, I'm not going to stall. I need to figure out what move that is. It gives me time to think about the move, and then I do the move, and then do it again. So that's I've never heard that. That's really a neat way to approach that.
Well, what's scary is you're doing the 1, 2, 3, but nothing changes. Nothing says that you cannot do 1, 2 or just 1. You know?
Yeah.
Depending on your leverage of experience, you can go faster or slower.
That's very that's interesting advice. I'm gonna have to try that again. You give me a lot of stuff to work on. That's good. I've never heard a lot of this, and I'm very interested to put it into my game and get it to work for me.
Well, it doesn't mean, of course, that you have to know the techniques. And you have to have a certain level of understanding.
Absolutely.
What guard pass you're going to use, what side control you're going to use, what sweep or whatever it is. But I'm saying the strategy in itself makes it easier for you to develop a game.
Yeah.
I need to just say one more thing before we go, Byron. For some of the listeners, sometimes I do in summer camps in Dallas, Texas. Usually summer, I don't get out of town that much, and I have a couple of events coming up soon here in my academy in the Farmers Branch area in Dallas. So on July 7th, between the 7th and the 10th, it's week 1, I'm going to work a summer camp. 2 hours a day, starts early in the morning at 6:30. It's a 2-hour session every day for 4 days, and it's going to be sub-week. People learn the main submissions, chokes and arm bars, whether from the guard, from the top side, and from the mount. And then on week 2, we're going to do tournament strategy and escapes. So week 2 is from the 14th to the 18th, another 4 days. And if anybody has any questions, I'd like to leave my website.
Absolutely.
It's www.carlosmachado.net. And if any of the guys who are listening like some of the things that I mentioned, I'd love to hear your feedback. Please like me on my fan page, Carlos Machado fan page. My personal page is already full. Unfortunately, I cannot take any extra friends. But just shoot me a Facebook message if any of you want to know anything else about RCJ Machado. If you're a student out there who's going to be in Vegas or in Dallas in the near future, me and my brothers will be doing a lot of seminars throughout the country. So we'd love to hear from you and connect with you if we can. Okay, so that's my message for today.
That sounds great, and I'll put links on my website for everybody to find your website and your Facebook fan page. Make it easy for them. So I appreciate you being on here.
All right, buddy. You have a wonderful Saturday, okay?
You do the same, my friend. Big thanks again for Carlos Machado for giving us the interview and sharing with us some of his wisdom about jiu-jitsu and life and getting better, and I'm sure he helped a lot of people with his advice today.
Oh, yeah, his advice is great. Like I said before, I really love talking about the breathing there. I think that's going to help not just beginners. You see a lot of beginners have trouble with breathing, but really about anybody. And if you can control your breathing and do a good job there, you're going to roll longer. It's going to be more enjoyable, and you're probably going to become a better grappler.
Yeah, he mentioned he rolls for 20 or 30 minutes a round. Like, he's not doing short rounds where he has to get a little break all the time. And another thing that I thought was interesting is that the older version of him now grappled the same guy from 10 years ago. He thought, he'd probably win, is what he said. He wasn't real like, I'd definitely destroy that guy. But he said, I'm better than I was 10 years ago. And that just shows his attitude towards his own personal training and development. He's constantly getting better. He said he's not looking for new techniques all the time. He's looking for ways to make what he does even better. So I
love that right there. Just what you have right now, just ways to make it better. And I think that's awesome.
And I think that's a common mistake is people always want a new technique. They always want the next thing that's around the corner. And with the internet, it's easy to find new stuff. And find ways to make the moves you already do a little bit better. And get those bricks that you throw a little bit better.
It's always good to get those bricks that we're throwing a little bit better. Want a heavy brick.
So don't forget to check out, if you're in Vegas, Carlos Machado's going to be at the 2014 Martial Arts Super Show. You can check out his website, carlosmachado.net. We'll put a link to that and his Facebook page on the show notes. Definitely, if you're interested if you want to get a hold of him and let him know how the breathing thing, how that affected you, he's interested in learning about how that has helped you. Big thanks again.
Definitely let us know too. Send us an email or put it on our website, Facebook page. We'd love to hear that too.
Yep, our email is bjjbrick@gmail.com. Send us an article, send us a quote, send us anything that the show's done to help you get better on the mat. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. We, trying to help the Jiu-Jitsu brotherhood, trying to make all of us better and help us all out.
Big thanks again from our buddy Jake Burrows from thegroundnevermisses.com for setting up this interview with Carlos. It was very nice of him to do that for us, and we appreciate it a lot. And our buddy Chewy from jiujitsu.net for giving us the quote of the week this week, and can't wait to have him on next week. He gives a great interview, and happy to share that with you guys as well.
And like I said, check out his blog. He's always got great stuff on there. I've been checking out his articles for a while now, so he's got some really good stuff on there. So I know you'll enjoy it. If you like our podcast, you'll definitely enjoy his blog. Really good stuff there.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to, giving you a lot of stuff to do today, but just pick one and then act on that. Or go to the show notes and they're all there for you and we try to make it easy for you. But if you want to enter in the contest to win the rash guard, the easiest way to do this is on Facebook or on Twitter. Just repost, share, or comment on any of the things relating to this podcast. We'll enter you in each time, and you get a chance to win either the Moco or the Robo rash guard. They're new rash guards from Fujisports.com, and we'll be picking a winner out shortly after, maybe midweek. I don't know. It depends on my schedule. So keep your email.
Definitely, make sure you like or share it because you definitely want to get in get a chance to win one of those rash guards. Great rash guards. And don't forget to check out Fujisports.com.
Absolutely. And a big thanks for them for supporting the show by doing that with us. And if you want one of those rash guards and you don't happen to win it, there's no reason you can't swing by there and get one anyway.
Yeah. And I tell you, both Byron and I have one right now, and you wouldn't believe the amount of people, every time I put it on, comment about how great it is. And I have the Robo, and Byron has the Moco, and two great rash guards.
Yep, and Gary has a nice set of abs on that thing.
Well, I need it because I don't have my own nice set of abs.
All right, guys. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Check us out next week. Like I said, we'll have Chewy, or otherwise known as Nick Albin, on the podcast, giving you guys some great advice about training and getting better at Jiu-Jitsu. So catch you next week, my friends.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.